think we are live. I think I'm also not ready as I look at my palette. I thought I was ready tonight. I always think I'm ready. I'm never ready. Let's make sure we've got audio. Oops. Anything? I hear nothing. Oh, yep, there's audio. Okay, we are good. So tonight I am working in acrylics. We're going to be painting a sunset. If you want to get the reference, you can get the reference photo, but I'm only kind of loosely basing it off that. It's over at patreon.com/Lachri. You can download it. It's free. You do not need to be a member to access that photo. Parts of it came from Photoshop, or no, parts of it came from Pixabay, and parts, actually there are two photos I combined, and then I changed it to be the angle I wanted, did some Photoshop painting on it, so it's kind of a crappy reference photo, but it works. I'm also going to be making my sky a little bit more orange than the pinks in that one, so you don't have to have that. And I guess I need to get my palette set up. I've got an absolute disaster going on over here. Let's see. We will use, well, I guess I'll just show you the label, and I'm going to use this for taking notes if you guys have suggestions for me for our future live streams. I'm working on a Frederick's watercolor canvas board, and just for transparency, this canvas was provided to me by Frederick's. They were already all I used, so it didn't change my opinion there, and all of the opinions about the canvas and why I use them and all of that are my own. I'm not being paid to say anything specific or anything like that. I just like them. So with this canvas, it's very, very smooth, and it makes it very easy for me to blend. So my two canvas choices are well, more canvas choices, but it's something basic like this. I really like the watercolor canvas boards, or the Frederick's Blue label are amazing. And then if you want to spend a bit more, I really love the Belgian linen. But for these are nice, and they're, you know, flat, easy to store. And because we've been doing so many of these live streams, I've got a lot of them, so that's good. I need to do like an online sale with some of these live stream paintings one of these days. Okay, so that is what I'm working on. I need to set up my palette a bit better. So I'm using Liquitex Basics acrylic paints. That sounds nice. Let's see. Me and my adult comments. Okay, what do I need? I've got the white. I've got yellows. Do I have orange? Well, I'll use a different orange. And then I believe I'll be using ultramarine blue. I've been using from the painting that I did with the primary colors, the Liquitex Soft Body, the ultramarine blue from that. I love these bottles. So as much as I love my Liquitex Basics, and they're still my go-to, like I prefer that paint, the bottles that these come in are so nice. Look at this. Nice little squeezy top. This is not how Liquitex Soft Body used to be. Definite improvement. I'm a huge fan of the bottles. The paint itself, wait, I don't want to listen to you chew on yourself. Where was I going with that? Oh, the main reason with these these paints that I don't love them as much for the way I paint, they have a bit more of a gloss to them as you're working. They don't have the really flat finish that the Liquitex Basics do, which makes it a little bit harder to photograph when you're done. I always put a gloss finish when I'm done, so it all looks the same in the end. But they also dry really fast. Like even on the palette, everything just dries faster with the heavy body and the Liquitex Soft Body, whereas the Liquitex Basics I find stay wet a lot longer, like a noticeable amount longer. And that reason alone, I don't know what the difference is, but there you go. Let's see. Kevin wants to know where I got my glass palette. Is it weight or safety ever an issue? I've not had an issue with it. I really never take it out of the Masterson's thing. I should have a link in the description of which one I have. If it's not there, go to Lachri.com, and then under supplies, go to acrylic supplies, and it should be listed there. But I've never had an issue on mine. These are, I guess the edges could be kind of, no, they feel a little bit more rounded than like glass frame. And some people just use the glass out of a frame. Those I'm a little bit hesitant to, because when I put pressure on it, when I'm scraping it, because I'm rough with things, I am worried about snapping the glass, although I don't know if that's a common issue or not. That, and I cut myself all the time. So with these, that's why I wanted to go ahead and spend a bit more and get the one that was intended as a glass palette to try to avoid some of those issues. It has, I don't think you can really see, but on the corners, they have these rubbery things on them. Although somebody did say they used a regular like sheet of glass, I guess for a frame, and used duct tape around the edge to try to keep it from cutting, which is a really good idea. So that was pretty cool. Thanks. Yeah, Nick's got the link there for my full acrylic supply list. So this one is an 8x10. It's not super big, which means I can go through it pretty quickly. I'm just going to grab a tack bristle filbert. I guess this one will work. This one is the Royal Langnickel. They're okay, not my favorites. I actually really like the Hobby Lobby generics more. Their Taklon bristled brushes are really good, and I like the Royal Soft Grip a lot. The Simply Simmons are also decent. This one's a little bit on the stiff side. Not my favorite. I'm trying to see where my ones I like better are, but I don't think they're over here. So I'm just going to have to deal. Okay, get a paper towel. So what I'm going to do on this is add water to the paint. I'm going to thin it out. Now, we're not going to worry about the trees at all. Excuse me. Actually, it's only 8:05. I'm going to wait till 8:10 to start, just in case a couple more people want to show up. If anyone's late, I'll get cut up. Are there any questions? I don't think we had any questions yet. Nope, I think we're good. If you have any questions, I'm going to wait about 5 minutes just to get started because what I'm about to do is like the kind of one of the biggest parts of the whole painting. So, you know, we'll wait. Taddy had said, I recently started painting and have been using the grid method using graphite pencil, and when I'm painting, the lines are showing through. How can I fix this for future paintings? Don't use graphite. I don't ever recommend using regular graphite on any of my acrylic paintings. Oil paints, it's no problem. It'll kind of work itself out. But with acrylic paintings, those lines will keep showing through. The paints are fairly translucent, and those graphite lines, they're not fun. So you've got a couple ways you can that you can fix this. One, you can draw everything out on a separate piece of paper, like cut the paper to the size of your canvas, get everything drawn out, go ahead and draw your grids, draw everything out how you want it, and then use tracing paper and transfer paper to transfer the image without the grid lines, onto your canvas. Go ahead and paint your background, and then you can transfer that over. Keeps everything way more clean, and you don't have those graphite lines. And what I would do is just get your base color before I would use white transfer paper, because that will erase all the way, to transfer it on. Like maybe your base color is just a sepia tone or anything you want for your base color, and that's how I would do that if you prefer the grid method. I'm not a fan of the grid method myself. It's faster for me to freehand than it is to use the grid method. So anyway, I'm more accurate freehanding than with it. The grid method requires math. I can't do it. But anyway, that would be one. Another, excuse me, would be to go ahead and get that base layer, like I was saying, and use a white charcoal pencil from Generals. That's the one that I like, and go ahead and do your grid and draw it out. That white charcoal will erase all the way. Last method that may be good for you is to use a water-soluble graphite pencil, because when you add water, when you add the paint, that's going to kind of work its way out, similar to how a regular graphite pencil will work its way out when using oil paint. So those would be some methods that you can avoid having those graphite lines show through. That may be one of I don't think we've had that question before in a live stream. Nice. Usually we get a lot of the same questions. That was a good one. Let's see. We've got Ian said, Liquitex do a matte gouache acrylic in those bottles now. Interesting. I'm interested in that. Illusioniste said, or I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I'm trying to make it sound fancy. Said, have you tried Caran d'Ache? The Caran d'Ache palette can you use for Inktense watercolor pencils, etc.? I have not. Jackie said, the palette is under oil, not acrylic on your website. Oh, I need to update that then. I recently updated the acrylics too, and I missed that then. It was, I used the same palette for both. So, man, I didn't realize I missed that. I actually need to make a note and fix that. Oh, I've got a colored pencil. Fix palette. See, this is why I have to have something to write on. You guys give me good info. Fix palette on acrylic. There we go. Okay. Cheryl said, watching while putting my room back together, new furniture, received my March postcard today. Loved it so much. Thank you. Yay. And also fun putting your room. I don't know. I like decorating. I like putting stuff together like that. Let's see. Actually, I need to redo or not redo. I need to start working on now the April postcards. I've got those here ready to, yep, that's coming up soon. Excuse me. Jackie said it's listed as foil wrapped tray under acrylic supplies. Yeah, that's what I used to use. It's not my go-to anymore. I missed that I did not fix that. So I will have to go and definitely make adjustments there. That is what I used and it works, but I found that it was very wasteful. So like here where I've got paint and I've been mixing and I've made a mess, I don't have to just throw it away and start over. I just scrape those areas I don't want off and can go ahead and add more paint. Like it's not as wasteful. Not just for the foil that I was having to throw away regularly, the paint. Like my paint lasts so much longer on here. Like I don't have to buy paint very often anymore, like not even close to what I used to. So yeah, I've got to fix that. Lee said I ordered a proper glass shelf. It was thicker and edges were smoothed out. Oh, there you go. Let's see. Casey said, hey, I was on your website and was looking for a link for arches. I didn't see one. Is this something you're going to add when you update the website? Also, looking for cans and Inktense. Yes, that's the colored pencil list is on my next thing of things that need to be updated. And there's a lot of changes I need to make on that one for sure. But yes, that is my next page that has to be fixed. Painting Violet Sky said, happy Wednesday, Lisa. Do you use satin or gloss varnish on your paintings? Does the satin still make the colors come to life like gloss does? Which do you prefer? I use gloss. I definitely prefer, like, it just seems more vivid to me with using the higher gloss. Just my preference. I've used satin before. I don't like it as much. I definitely am a huge fan of gloss, and that's going to be personal preference because some artists hate gloss. They'll only varnish with matte. So it really is completely up to you on what you prefer. I go with gloss every time, and I go with the highest gloss I can find and use several coats. So two coats minimum, but I've been starting to play around with like 3 or 4 thin coats, and I like those results even better. You've got to do thin coats though. That's important. Let's see. Heather said, hello from Vacation Me. Just saw a gorgeous sunset. This will help for my art when I get home. Nice. Beek said, one male relative critiqued my grid method as another way of tracing. He says I have to learn anatomy, muscular and fur for the animal subject. He comes from an engineering background. He's not wrong, and he's not totally right either. Yeah. Tracing, no, you're still freehanding, but it is a way to, it's an aid. I don't want to say crutch. Well, so that's how, like he views it as a crutch is what he's doing. The thing is, the drawing, even if you trace, so who cares? The buyer never cares. The only people who care if you trace are other artists who think for some reason you're lesser than them because they freehanded, and usually the ones who freehanded, and there are exceptions, but I swear half the time when I see somebody complaining about tracing, they can't draw for crap themselves. And I'm like, I'm not sure you get to judge me. So I guess you can, but I think you're hilarious. So yeah, no, whatever works for you, it's art. There are no rules. And yes, you should learn anatomy. He's not wrong there. That's very helpful, but you still have to learn to draw what you see, and that just comes from practice. If you want to use grid, if you want to trace, I've seen students progress faster from tracing than any other method, even freehanding, light drawing, anything. The more you draw and the more you start teaching your brain to see accurately what's there, they get to where they can freehand it just as accurately as tracing. So people have a tendency to think that these tools, grids or tracing, that it's this crutch that you'll forever have to use if you ever use it, and it's just not true. I've been teaching for over 20 years. I know what I'm talking about. It's not true. You may have the outlier who does not move forward because of those tools, but that's rare. That's very rare. I've really only seen it a couple of times, and honestly, in those cases, they were people who were probably never going to get to where they could freehand anyway. So if this is a method that can help somebody who isn't comfortable drawing, isn't good at drawing, but they can still make pretty paintings, why not? I don't know why people, rant time, I don't know why people get so worked up over how somebody else creates. As long as it's archival, meaning you're not putting a water-based product on top of an oil-based product, meaning you're using light-fast materials, you're using quality materials that are gonna last, assuming you're selling your work. Who cares? Did you produce something awesome that didn't previously exist? You're just as awesome as the person who produced something that did not previously exist using different methods. Doesn't matter. You're whatever it takes to get your vision, to get the thing that you're passionate about, to create something beautiful that wasn't already in the world. You just won. That's amazing. And you get these people who want to, and God, it just seems like our world in general right now, who want to dictate how you think, what you say, the way you say it, the way you paint, the way you draw, the way you want to create beauty in your, people want to dictate everybody else's for some reason I cannot explain. And it's not, that's not how art works. So, he can go ahead and tell you that, and you can kind of giggle and walk away. That would be what I do. You're like, okay. And the funny thing is, backing up even more, one of my friends, her husband, she started painting. I met her because she was taking classes with me. This was years and years ago. And she was doing the tracing and transfer paper method. And the husband was saying that's easy. You're basically cheating. That doesn't mean you can create something good. And so she's like, okay, you do it. Go ahead and trace it. You can trace it too. and go ahead and paint it. And after, he never gave her crap again because he realized, wow, that is like the least important part about making a painting look good. The actual, so yeah. Okay, moving on because I will rant about that forever. Let's see. Paris said, can I use titanium white oil paint over colored pencil drawing for highlights if brush and pencil titanium white is not available? I've never used it. The thing is, oil paint doesn't play real nicely with regular paper if the paper's not been gessoed. So I've not tried it. I don't know what results you're going to get. I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, assuming it's not going to go well. Again, oil paint just doesn't play, it soaks in weird to the paper, and that can affect things long term. I don't know. As far as being archival, it should be fine. I just don't know that it's going to give you the results you're hoping to get. Let's see, and get caught up on a couple more questions and we'll get started. Let's see. It's a nice palette. You can rub Inktense or watercolor pencils right on the palette and activate it. That is, okay, I have to look into that. You said Caran d'Ache, right? Let's make a note to look into the Caran d'Ache palette. That sounds absolutely amazing. Okay, and let's see. Do I prefer heavy body, liquid, or basic acrylics? Hands down, basics. The heavy body are a good paint. I'm not saying they're like bad or this is better than that. For my techniques, basics. They blend well, they glaze well, they stay wet longer. Everything about them except some colors are available in heavy body that are not in basics. The order that I would personally use them would be Liquitex Basics, Liquitex Soft Body, Liquitex Heavy Body would be my last choice. They're better for like palette knife painting, thick, chunky painting, stuff like not glazes. I do a lot of glazes, so I want the more translucent paint, I want thinner paint, and Liquitex Basics just work really well for my techniques. I do stick with the ones that are light fast and they're marked on the bottle. Where are they marked on this one? It's light fast on this one is 1. So like this bottle on the back, you've got your light fast information and if it's opaque or not. Rhonda said, you spray gloss or brush or pour? I pour and brush, I guess. It's a liquid, it's back there, but they're bottles. I just squirt it onto the canvas and then use a brush to go ahead and spread that. I usually use a sponge brush to spread it around. Let's see. I'm going to go through, trying to get through the questions really quick and we'll go get started. So if you're like, why are you talking so much? Just paint. We're getting there. Boots Mama said, are you going to be able to do an Inktense Orchid next week? I have not found a good Orchid one to work from. I did look for that. It's on my list. Like I was looking last night and I still have to find a decent reference photo of an Orchid that is royalty free. What I may end up doing is just using one for my own painting, past paintings as a reference because I'm not sure where I got some of these. But that may be what I have to do. So that's the plan. I have to find the reference photo though. Joseph said, recently sent an original painting I did, emailed you, but if you don't get it, I'm sorry, I'm new to this. I'm not sure how this process works. If you did it for critiques, that's not how I accept critiques anymore. And I need to update that on my site so no one wastes their time. And I keep note, change critique on website to let people know that's not how I do them anymore. Cause those are years, it's been years since I did them that way. So normally the way that I take them, if you sent something for a critique, because I didn't see it, will be through whatever. Links in the description. Facebook, our group there. I need to do one coming up pretty soon here, or through Patreon. I like rotate where those come from. So yeah. Pizza Face said, isn't there something to be said for there are no new ideas? I think there's plenty of new ideas. I'll see things people paint and it wasn't painted quite the same. I mean, yeah, if you're doing a bunch of landscapes, somebody else painted that same landscape. That doesn't mean there's no value in doing that, but especially when you get into surrealism, I see some pretty cool things that are very, very unique. And while one artist, you may be able to see that they're somewhat influenced by another, it's still very unique. Whether it be their lighting, their design. So I don't know if I remember as a kid, actually I can start painting while we talk. As a kid, I was pre-teen, teen right around there, and I really liked to paint and draw. And my best friend's dad would say that same thing. It's all already been done. You can't make a living as an artist, and it's all already been done. And it's just not true. Neither of those things are true. Whoops, that just scrolled too far. 1 second. Mary said, I love your explanations. I learn something new every time I join one of your lives. Thanks. Thanks for joining, Mary. Heather said, the Caran d'Ache palette may not be available. Oh, that's sad. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, Brett. My brain can't retain information, and so I'm trying to start writing these things down now because that's becoming a problem that's getting really annoying to me. I blame my age, but it's always been this way. So yeah, I apologize. Dan said, hey Lisa, have you noticed any quality difference between Master's Touch and Artist Loft products? I definitely, when it comes to paintbrushes, prefer the Master's Touch, hands down. I don't use generic, and those are both generic products. One's from Michaels, one's from Hobby Lobby. I will not use generic paints. I will not use generics of a lot of things like that because I don't trust these companies to be they're doing it to make, and I mean, every company does it to make a profit, I get that, but they're not experts in their field when it comes to their art supplies, kind of like some of these cheap stuff you see promoted all over YouTube. They're not experts in their field. They found a niche that they could make a profit on, but I don't feel like they're doing it to make something that's going to last very long term. Like Frederick's, their canvases are going to last long term. They've been doing it for 100 years. I forget how long, but I think it's been about 100 now. You've got Faber-Castell, Derwent, they make products with the goal of keeping artists happy, making stuff that artists want. And I feel like, and I talked to people when I was teaching out of Hobby Lobby for a while, I talked to one of their managers there and they were telling me, yeah, they just don't make enough money off the art supplies. And that's why they are starting to just sell their own generic crap more and more. Now the brushes, fine, I like that. But a lot of the products that they have as their generics, not a fan of. I'm just, if that's what you've got to get started, great. But I really do wish that they would carry the good stuff. And we're seeing that more and more in these companies making their own generic crap. And I'm not a fan of them. I'm not a fan of that movement. I'm not a fan. I'm not. And it's going to hurt the sales because people go in there and all you can get now are some of the generic versions of these things. They don't have the higher end stuff that they used to have. You used to have Grumbacher. You used to have a lot of other products in these stores that you can't get it now. I have to order stuff online if I want that. And that's a bit of an issue for if you really want the quality stuff. And so the quality suppliers, I imagine, they're losing money to the generic stuff that's being pushed because their stuff isn't in the stores. I'm not a fan of that. I want to see more high quality stuff being pushed and competition for the high quality stuff. That's a good thing. That keeps, the price down. But yeah, it's, I'm not a fan of those, either one. But as far as the paintbrushes, hands down Master's Touch. Anything Artist Loft I've used, I don't like their canvases. I don't like the Master's Touch canvases either, or the whatever they call them. Not a fan. Let's see. Tina said, I joined late, so can you tell me what you've done? Absolutely nothing. I was waiting for you, Tina. I wanted to make sure everyone made it before we got started because this is actually a quick project. So I'm just going through some questions before we get started because this part's really good. So absolutely nothing. You are good. We'll start in just a second. Do I use any mediums with acrylics? Sometimes when glazing, I'll use a glazing medium, but rarely. I normally just prefer water. I like the results I get better. Okay. Oh, thank you. Let's see, painting violet. I think it left off skies. Thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, you're in a little critter. Oh, goosebumps. And there go the tears. Stop it, eyes. Let's see. Where were we? Unknown artist said, hello from India. Your new student, Satyam, here is age 9. So just to be clear, I don't know if you're a parent talking for Satyam or if it's Satyam, but I don't answer it's not for kids. So I keep my stuff's all, family friendly and such, but it's not intended for kids. And so I won't be answering questions, not because I'm trying to be rude to you, but we've got some weird rules going on where anything that is targeting children can hurt my channel and get me fined if I don't mark it as such. And it's not intended for kids. So I will apologize for ignoring you moving forward. That seems so mean. I hate being rude to people. Jeannie said, no, Jeannie, I can't read. How much water can be safely added to Liquitex Basic Soft Body? Okay, so there are videos out there going, this much, if you go more than 30%, if you go more than, no, it's all bull. None of it's true. There's actually a really annoying video out there with a lot of misinformation. The one with the top comments turned off, they're turned off for a reason because it's so much misinformation. You can add all you want. Now, the more you add, you do want to, and this is important for tonight's painting too, the more water you add, so there's a couple of reasons you'll add water. One is to make the paint flow more smoothly. So you're not getting like a dry brush look. You'll get a nice smooth finish. The other is to make the paint more translucent. So for, say, a glaze. But you have to keep in mind that the more water you add, the more translucent it is and the less adhesive it is. That's an important point. So there's a video out there that talks about the molecules binding, blah. It's bull. It's absolute bull. The paint is not going to chip off or flake off because you use too much water. Once you varnish it, this is the important part though, once you varnish it, it's done. It's staying. It's not going anywhere. But until it's been varnished, like if I thin something down with water and I scrape it with my nail, it can scrape off. So that is something to keep in mind. The more water you add, the less adhesive it is. But once it's varnished, not coming off. I've added tons of water on furniture that I used to stand on and it was never a problem. So, that's, I'm guessing you saw the same video that I saw that tells you this is you can only add up to this much water. It's absolute bull. So, you know, there you go. Golden's they were sharing some research done that proved that that was just not true. Let's see. I think we're almost caught up. Dan said, I agree about Crayola is both better in color payout and build quality. Wait, what? The Crayola is better than MT or AL, and Crayola is I don't even know what those are. Oh, Master's Touch and, okay, Irisloft, I see what you're saying. I've not tried the generic colored pencil. I don't bother. Jason asked how the dogs are. They are good. They are currently passed out. Oh, Wade got Gibson's bed. That's the first. And the girls, my Italian Greyhounds, are in the other room with my husband. Let's see. Finally sold a painting yesterday. Now I feel like a real artist. Congratulations. That's awesome. Okay, so finally going to go ahead and get started now. So here, the colors I may have to adjust because looking at the screen, it's making my hand really like brown in a way that it is not going to be. Hold on, I should probably change that before I put the lighting in here. I try to get all of this stuff changed before the stream, but the problem is it's daytime when I'm getting set up, and as the sun starts going down, everything starts shifting. So let's see. Let me just go ahead and try to do, it looks like the saturation is just up. No, I don't know if it's that so much. Brightness, maybe. We'll see how this goes as we start painting. It's closer. It still looks a little overdone, but we'll see. Okay. Instead of buying the Garnish palette, try using a plastic cutting board for Inktense water mediums. They're great. I have some that I could probably use. I think someone mentioned that. Let's try that. Let's add plastic cutting board. Actually, I think I'll remember that one when I look at that palette. Philly said, just watched a video today on YouTube by a former art forger that uses KY jelly to keep the acrylics wet longer. Sure don't expect that. Oh, that's not a great idea. I mean, I guess it would work, but as far as being archival, kind of an issue. Okay, so what I'm going to do, we're going to paint the entire canvas. We're not even going to worry about where the pine trees are going to go. But we do, I say we don't need to worry about where they go, but we do need to keep in mind they'll come up to about here. We're going to paint the whole thing top to bottom, but do remember we want the light up here because the palm trees are going to, or palm trees, these aren't palm trees, these are pine trees. They're going to come up about there, but still I'm going to pull the yellows down a lot further than what's actually going to show. And we're going to go from yellows up into kind of a brownie, or I'll probably pull in my red oxide, and then up into violet, and then finally the ultramarine blue, and I don't have any violet out. Now, you may do this in a couple of layers. I probably will. We'll see what happens. Usually I end up having to do it in a couple of layers, so it's no big deal if the first layer looks absolutely terrible or if it's too streaky or any of that, no big deal. I'm using a tackle bristled filbert. Let's see, my hand does not look orange anymore. Okay, good. Phyllis said, okay, got that one. Jen, are mediums preferable to water as a thinner drying extender? I don't like the ones that, they have the ones that make it to extend the dry time. I don't like them. It makes the paint real weird consistency. I just paint fast. And as far as to make it thinner preferable, some people like them. It's not my preference. Okay, so I'm going to start by adding titanium white to the yellow because I do want this to be fairly light. And I'm just going to slop that in on there. Now, here's a big thing with acrylics. don't just, and I see this happen a lot with newer students. They just barely dip the paintbrush, just a little bit of paint, and they're trying to be real careful. No. Slather. That's a good word. Slather it on. Like, you got a sunburn and you're putting on aloe, you're going to just goop that stuff on there. If you can't tell, I've spent a lot of time in the sun lately. That is where my mind goes to. So we're going to come up here. Now I'm going to go ahead and start pulling in. I've got some raw sienna. Let's throw a little bit of that in there. Now, from the reference photo I had mentioned, I am going to not neutralize, but I'm going to go more towards the orangey tones instead of the super pink that the reference photo had. So I'm going to pull some raw sienna. If you don't have the same colors as me, it does not matter at all. I'm going to start rounding that off a little bit. And if you've got a question for me, make sure to do the Outlaw Pre-Fine Art. If it does not highlight in orange, I'm not going to see the question, not because I'm trying to ignore you. That's just inevitably what's going to happen. I'm going to add some white to the red oxide. So I get more of the kind of the sunsetty colors. Actually, it looks like we're getting a little orange in my current sunset out there. Not as pretty as this one. So I'm going to come up in here. I'm going to go actually make a few brush strokes. So this, I'm going to let it be a little streaky so it looks like some clouds. This is like the most time consuming part of the video. Well, like maybe the trees, but it's like so fast. This is why I wanted to wait a little to make sure everyone was here. Otherwise, there's just not a whole lot you'll see. I'm going to throw in a little bit of pink. So I've got my violet. I think I've got a bit too much water. I'm going to wipe some of that off. Or not too much water, too much white. And I'm going to let that, oops, I got a chunk of paint in there. I'm going to let that fade down. I'm okay if this is a little streaky. I just want to make sure my streaks are going more horizontal. Now, before this dries too much, I'm going to go ahead and take a mop brush. And in my case, it's a blush brush. And I'm lightly going to go over this to soften my brush strokes. Now, the goal here, I use this, I often misspeak and say that I'm blending the paint. The goal is not to blend. The other brush is what I use to blend. Here, I'm just softening out my brush strokes. I'm okay if you can kind of see them, but this gives me this really nice soft feel. Oops. What did I just hit? Hopefully it was not closing OBS. Oh, good. That was a little scary. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and start pulling in a little bit more with that. I'm using deep violet, any magenta. If you don't have magenta, you could mix some red and some blue with a little bit of white to get a very similar color to what I have here. Now I'm going to switch over to my ultramarine blue. Now this is a fairly translucent blue, so I'm going to put this on pretty thick. I'm going to throw a little bit of white on there once I get this in. Just fill that in. Let's pull a touch of white, just because it's so translucent and it's a little darker than what I need anyway. I'm going to go down to that violet, but that violet, I don't want to go too far because I don't really want to mix that too much into the orangey area, or I'm going to get a really muddy look, which is not what I'm going for here. So I'm going to rinse the blue off my brush. I'm going to reload it with some of the violet. I'm going to pull that in. See how I can now get this nice soft transition between these two colors. Again, try not to pull too far into that orange. And you don't have to paint the same sky. You could do flowers. I want to do flowers. You could do clouds. Yes, I just mixed up the word flowers and clouds. But you can do so many different things here. Now here, I'm pushing a little harder just because that was not blending right. Now this brush needs to be 100% dry to work. If it starts to get wet, whether it be because it picked up some of the paint or because you rinsed out the tips in water, it's going to create brush strokes instead of taking them away. And that's it. That is how simple that is. Now, in my case, I'm going to throw some stars up on the upper section so that it looks like a little bit of the night sky. Now, I'm going to rinse just the tip of this brush in water. I don't need to dip the whole brush in water because only the tips of the brush should have ever gotten any paint on it. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry, get caught up. Actually, I'm going to hair dry it, so plug your ears. And then I'm going to add stars. love these type of paintings. They're fun and they're so fast. So like, let's say you just want to practice blending. This is a great way to practice doing the silhouette of the trees like this. And what I used to do, so sliding around, I did the starving artist thing for a very long time. So what I would do is this type of painting I would do in classes for teaching, but then I would use those same paintings as gifts for family members. And some of them may have just faked liking them, I don't know. But most of the family members I liked were really happy with it, with getting a painting. And it was something that I had to do anyway, because I mean, I had all of these paintings for my classes. So, because I used to do a lot of paint-alongs. So that, it's kind of the two birds with one stone, because if you've got to invest the money into the art supplies anyway, it was always a challenge for me when holidays came around and I needed birthday gifts or Christmas gifts. I didn't have the money for that and art supplies. Make it the same thing. Use the art supplies, at least if you're in the stage I was when I was in my 20s and 30s, where you need gifts for people, but you also need to buy art supplies. Go ahead and get the paintings, so you got the practice out of the way. And I know you may be thinking, well, I need to sell the paintings. Your bigger, more advanced paintings, yes. But stuff like this, these little quick ones are great as gifts that you can do. And you can even go smaller. You can do a 5x7. You can get little canvas boards and get stuff done very, very quickly and have a nice gift for somebody. And you also got art practice in. Okay, let's see. Let me get back up on some of the questions. Boots Mama said, Karen Dash palette is around $17. Kylene board from Dollar Tree, $1. That is a good point. I'm sold. Let's see. Jane said, for acrylics, what medium would you suggest to make the drying longer? Paint faster or I mist water? So I have a Grex airbrush. This is the one that I use now. But you also can get little hobby kits, and they should be on my website. If you go to my website, lachri.com, then supplies and acrylics, there should be a thing for a hobby airbrush there by Badger, I believe. And that one you can just mist water. I could keep this paint, and I did it. I need to show you guys. It's an older painting that's in my room. Really elaborate sky with all these colors, but very defined as far as where the clouds were. Like, I had to be very controlled. I had to keep that wet. I'm not kidding. Hours. I needed the acrylic paints to stay wet. And that's not a problem with that airbrush. I just kept misting water, lightly misting, and you can keep it wet as long as you want without making your paint feel gunky and nasty. And I don't like the extenders. I don't use them. I won't use them. And I don't know a single artist who paints in a manner that I want my work to look. So I'm not saying you can't make pretty paintings with them. I want to make that very clear, so because somebody will inevitably get offended by everything. But you can make pretty paintings with them. But as far as like people who produced artwork that I looked at and thought, wow, I want mine to look like that. Not a single one of them uses an extender. So yeah, that is the airbrush is what I recommend. I think it's way cheaper too, because you're just misting water. I mean, you have to replace the can of air. But you're looking at like under $40 for most of those hobby kits. They don't last forever as far as like the hose can go bad. You have to replace the can of air, but it's still cheaper than most of those extenders. Cat's Art Pick said, I love my pastels, but they make a mess of my hands and easel ledge. Any ideas? Oh, I have an issue. That's a huge issue for me with pastels, and that I hate how they feel on my hands. But what I do when I'm working, let's say with powder blender or with pan pastels aren't super messy, but with powder blender and colored pencil on sanded paper, that gets messy. Not as messy as pastels, but it does get messy. I will put paper towels under my work so I can just kind of toss that away when I'm done, and then I wipe everything off before I switch mediums, because it gets on everything. I've also used where I put an old towel or a t-shirt or just anything under that to help catch it. The easel catches it, but it made it so messy. So that's what I do. Renee said, have you ever used Arteza acrylic markers on your acrylic painting? I won't use I always say Arteza. Arteza is what I say. It's Arteza. I can't say it right. I don't use their products. I'm not a fan of their marketing. I'm not a fan of the company and my interactions that I've had with them, as far as they kept trying to get me to push their products like they do to every other YouTuber ever. And I'm fine with that. If people want to use them, for an entry-level product, that's fine. I don't use entry-level products. I'm a professional artist, so there's that. And I don't trust them to be making something that is actually light fast. I have some serious questions about their stuff. But anyway, they kept contacting me. I had declined, and then I just stopped responding, and they'd still send someone in to contact me to promote their stuff. And they do a thing with YouTubers where they'll I mean, it's not that, like, I have affiliate links, that's fine, but theirs was more like you gotta, I don't know, it was a different type of affiliate than what I would do with like my Amazon stuff. I was just like, I'm not going to push your products that hard. In order to be paid by them, they would send me the product, but then I had to sell more of them in order to, I'm not a used car salesman, and I'm not going to start pushing art products that I don't personally believe in. So anyway, I chose not to work with them. And they then started one of their employees went to one of my videos where one of you guys on a live stream had asked a question about acrylics. Nothing to do with their products. Their response didn't even answer the actual question, and it was like it was wrong. It wasn't how I would answer. And they were asking me, and Zay or whatever their employee, whoever it was, came in and started trying to push their products on this person. So I blocked them from my channel, but I have no respect for that company. So I won't use their products at all. Heather said, the blush brush also comes out after OMS uncolored pencil background paintings. Wait, what? The blush brush also comes out after OMS on, oh yeah, it actually, so what did I use that on? There was something I did that on recently. Was it pastel matte? I don't know. I don't remember what it was now, but I remember doing it and thinking, oh my gosh, I think it was pastel matte. I used a blush brush and got really good results for blending my background. Yeah, it was the pastel matte. I think I did that on the Patreon one. Hi, Sneaks. Zach said, looks very good so far. Thank you. Oops. Wow, thank you, Phyllis, for the super chat. You were so sweet. Aww. Yay, goosebumps. Yeah, and there's teary-eyed stop. Yeah, I just need to stop doing much eye makeup. I think that's a better idea for live streams. You guys keep making me cry. What type of paint do I use? All my supplies are listed in the video description. Tonight I'm working, as usual, with Liquitex Basics. With the exception, I do have a Liquitex soft body for my ultramarine blue, just because I'm too lazy to grab that out in Liquitex Basics, and it was sitting right there. They said I paid $11 for the palette. I like the logo on it. You know, I do that sometimes when I'm buying art supplies too. Like, I get it. Where were we? Joshua said, I am convinced this is wizardry. I can keep up with your speed, but my paint dries way faster than yours. So there's a couple of things, and this is important. The type of canvas you're using will matter. So like I've used the Michaels and Hobby Lobby, they're generic canvas boards, and I found that it was hard to blend. They have too much tooth to them, and so the paint, it took a lot more to get it to blend, whereas this is super easy and super fast on a really smooth canvas. The Frederick's the Blue Label would be the same thing. That very smooth, it blends really nicely. It is so much easier to blend well and fast on a really smooth canvas when you're trying to get that look than it is on a canvas with more tooth. So keep that in mind. It may be as simple as that, or I've just been painting a long time. Renee said, how do you repair a canvas if torn? I dropped a finished one on a metal easel. Oh gosh, I've done it a couple of times, and it's like heartbreaking. So you can look up videos. I'm not an expert in this, but you can do something with tape and a type of glue and make sure it's archival and acid free. And I've seen where people kind of did things to repair it. I have not tried that myself. I have one painting somebody wanted to buy anyway. I had used her son. It was a little boy with bubbles. It was in black and white with bubbles, and it was her son. And it wasn't for her. The photographer gave me permission to use it, and then the mom wanted it. And so I had to give him a huge discount. I'm like, it's torn on the hand. It was a watercolor canvas, and not a board. It was an actual canvas, and that one had a tear like right by his hand. I want to say we did the tape and glue. It's been years, so I don't totally remember. But I had to let her know it's torn, and I've done it. I've got a couple paintings here that I've had something like that happen on, and it's just, look up, I would YouTube it. It's not something that I'm an expert on, so I would not be giving you good advice. But I know it can be done. I wouldn't be comfortable selling it unless the buyer knew, hey, this has been torn. I think that it's important that they know. But yeah, I need to, let me know if you find a good method. Yari said, what type? Okay, got that one. Whoops, that scrolled too far. Phyllis said, buy a crepe myrtle on me. Oh my gosh. Oh, speaking of crepe myrtles, I just got goosebumps again. My crepe, one of mine, so I have 5 out along my back wall. They're a coma, so they're a dwarf variety. They'll top out like 10 to 12 feet. And one of them is starting to produce buds already. I just saw it today. I'm like, why are the leaves drooping? Is he not getting enough water? And I went out and I'm like, you know, watering, look closer. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's actually getting buds. I didn't know that they would bloom this year because it's their first year with me. Or, you know, I just planted them, and they're still kind of babies. But yeah, one of them, it was the one that leafed out first too. Got buds. I'm really excited. Rhonda said, do you use the Frederick watercolor canvases with your Inktense? Do you have to watch the service first? I have not tried it yet, and I need to. Maybe when we do the Orchid and Inktense, we'll go ahead and experiment, and I'll do it on a watercolor canvas. It should be perfect for it. I just haven't done it yet. Let's see. Where were we? Do I ever gesso my, what? I don't know what the rest of that is. I apologize. You may have to type it again because I may lose that if you type it, if it isn't all in one thing. Mary said, if you have a canvas that has a lot of tooth, does painting several layers of gesso help? Yes. If you put gesso, I would put like 2, sometimes 3 coats of gesso and sand it down, let it dry completely, and then sand it down with maybe somewhere in the 200s of sand grit paper is what I usually use. I have used up to a 1200 grit paper, sandpaper. I wouldn't recommend it. It made it like glass. It was too smooth. The paint didn't really stick. It kind of slipped around a bit too much. But yeah, add a couple coats of gesso and then sand it, and you can definitely make them a lot smoother. That's what I did. Well, you guys can't see it, but my zebra that I did with the bees, that type of canvas, it's a Frederick's Convexo canvas, and it's got the beveled edges. They're amazing, but it's a heavier weight canvas, and so it's got more tooth. But I love them so much, and I still want to paint on them, but it's too much tooth for my taste. So I just put a couple, 2-3 coats of gesso, let it completely dry between coats, and then sand it down, and now I've got a nice smooth canvas to paint on. Where were we? Sarah said, if you were talking last week with someone about the importance of numbers to sponsors. I am missing a bunch of, I've got a bunch of partial questions, and I apologize. I don't know how to finish that one. Serena said, do you ever gesso your canvas board before you paint, or do you paint straight on it? My canvases, only like I was saying with the one that was there was too much tooth. Canvas board, this is so smooth. This doesn't need anything added to it. Yes, as Nick said, please subscribe, like, share the video. Really helps me out because YouTube doesn't always share these. They're very hit or miss on if they are going to share the videos. Sometimes they'll share them with tons of people, and people will contact me saying, well, for the first time in like years, that YouTube told me you had a video, and then they won't share anymore, and my numbers drop again. So it's kind of hard to keep up with, or keep, the views and all of that without, if you guys can share, that helps. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now take a very stiff, this is an old, very damaged brush. It's probably older than half of you guys. And I'm going to take a palette knife. And what I will do is add a bit of water. This needs to be a fairly stiff brush to really work nicely. I'm going to dip that. You could use a toothbrush. A lot of people prefer that. I'm going to just get some stars up here. I'm just going to lightly flick some of these up there so it looks like night starting to show. And if you are new to this method, I strongly recommend practice on a board or something else first. These are not showing, are they? Are you guys even able to see these? Oh yeah, you can see them a little bit. I just want a hint of stars up there. I'm not going to go crazy with it, and that's it. Now, important point. I pull the palette towards me. Do not push away from you, or you will get a face full of stars. Starry, starry face. Okay, let's clean that off. And that needs to dry, and then we're going to start with the trees. Now, actually, while that dries, one of the things that you may want to do, and somebody had asked earlier about, the graphite line showing, this is the white charcoal pencil that I like. It's by Generals, and what I'm going to do is just kind of put in about where I want these trees to be, and I have mine coming at an angle, so it's kind of that fisheye lens. Well, not maybe that much. That's a little too much. But I just love that look, and so I'm going to put lines about, and I'm just putting basically the trunk. I'm not going to draw in the whole tree, but it gives me an idea of where I want these trees to be. So right about there. And I'm going to let my stars dry before we start. Well, let's see, we've got a couple questions here. Oops. Leah said, had your videos on today while working, and I love the guy you did with the coral and the fish beard. Loved it. Thank you. So fun story about that while we wait for this to dry. And here come the complaints. You talk too much. I always get that on the live streams. It's an art chat. I'm going to talk. You guys don't complain. It's the people who watch late, tomorrow. Anyway, the guy with the coral, he's going to be helping me set up a tank. I'm upgrading I have right now, a 13.5 gallon saltwater reef tank. It's a little redundant, obviously, if it's a reef tank, it's saltwater. But they came over yesterday and we talked about the size. I was planning on a 30 to 40 gallon, so I have a nice big house for my clownfish, so they get a nice upgrade. Yeah, they talked me into an 80 gallon. So it's gonna be big. I'll be able to have a lot more fish, a lot more coral, which is really exciting, and I'll be able to see it from my desk. So excited. It's a much more elaborate setup than I was I was previously planning, but Brandon, the guy with the fish coral, he will be helping me with getting that set up, and oh, am I excited. I'm not sure how long it's going to take because they're contacting vendors and all this stuff for, yes, it's going to be, there will be a video of putting it together, and he will actually be in that. So, and possibly someone else if we can get him down here. So yeah, I'm excited about that one. So a little update there. My fish, my coral, my fish are perfectly healthy where they're at. They'll get more space, but clownfish don't need it. They just pick their little spot and want to stay in it. They're not ones to really want to swim all over the tank all the time unless they're begging for food. But the corals will have a better light system on them, which is way better for them. So let's see. Count Olaf said, honestly, don't understand the difference between gesso and white acrylic paint. Can't get away with using white paint instead. So you can, I've known people to do it. The white paint is going to be a little bit more slick. The gesso tends to add, it's funny because it adds a little bit more tooth, which seems to be the opposite of what you want when you're adding gesso and sanding it down, but we're sanding it, which removes a lot of that. So we're just making it a little thicker so that we can sand it. But sorry, itchy nose. The gesso is typically going to be more opaque and it sticks better. The white acrylic, sometimes, depending on the paints that you're using, if they have a higher gloss, it doesn't want to stick on top of another paint that is as higher gloss as well as gesso could. Sometimes it's not as opaque as the gesso. And again, it really does come down to the brand that you're using. Sorry, horrible tickle in my throat. It's bad. That was a bad one. I kept trying to talk through it and I think I made it worse. I should have just gotten a drink. So yeah, my allergies are horrible, sorry. But it depends on many factors. But the big thing is that the gesso is going to stick a bit better and it does typically add a little bit more tooth. Whereas like this paint, because it dries flat, it's not that slick. But if you were to use like the Liquitex Heavy Body, the Liquitex Soft Body paints, they're smoother, they're more slick and stuff. Stuff doesn't want to stick on as well. Sometimes that's a good thing. You get a super smooth surface, but sometimes you want a little bit more tooth so that those future layers will kind of stick a bit better. Or like me, I just sand it anyway. But that's kind of like the basic. There's more to it, but that's kind of the basic there. Let's see. Whoops, that just scrolled too far. Where were we? There we are. Porin Star said, I had Porin, just to be clear, Porin, don't get mad at me and demonetize me, YouTube. Said, I repaired a warped dented canvas that I leaned something on by spraying warm water on the back and used a hairdryer to flatten it out. This may help if the canvas is stretched when torn. Yeah. Now, if it's torn, don't use that yet. It's going to be hard with fixing it. But yeah, if you have just like a dented stretched canvas where something was pushing on it, and it doesn't even have to be hot water, just water. Just take a spray bottle, mist the back with water, and then the hairdryer will generally pull it back into shape. I have fixed some majorly screwed up canvases that way before. Good tip. Carol said, when you say smooth, as in smooth as hot press watercolor paper or color pencil watercolor paper, huh? When you say smooth as hot press watercolor paper or colored pencil watercolor paper, I don't know what you're asking. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm reading that right, and I apologize. Write it out like somebody who's partially brain dead, which is me right now. So I apologize. Brent said, so do you ever have a problem with your canvas boards bowing? When I do pours with the kids, they often go, yeah, with pours, I don't do acrylic or do pours on that. Actually, some Smart Art Box ones that I had were really bad. Like they warped horribly, and the pour was beautiful, and they warped so bad. So I won't use any canvas board for a pour. For just normal painting, I don't have any problems with the Fredericks don't warp. I've never had a problem with those, but I have had huge problems with like the generic from Michaels, the generic from Hobby Lobby. I had to frame them to get them to not be warped, and that was without a pour. That was just over time from humidity and whatever else, they'll start to warp. So, but when I do an acrylic pour, yeah, I don't use those at all. I haven't tried it with the Fredericks. I just know how bad that it has a tendency to warp, that it's like, probably not the best choice. Sarah said, I didn't realize my question had gone through. I'm having a hard time writing it while staying within the character limit. I'm sorry. Superstar said, do you have I can't talk, a preferred thing to paint, or do you just paint anything that inspires you? Anything that inspires me, but usually that's going to be animals or surrealism that includes animals. Marine life is probably my favorite. But I think if, like, I don't want to just do marine life. I did that for many years, and I got really burnt out and didn't want to paint marine life again for like 10 years. So, because that's all I did. I had considered myself a marine artist. And so that was, like, I used to use the Water of Life Studio was what I did instead of just Lachri Fine Art. So that was, yeah, I got really burnt out. I mean, I got to the point where I'm like, I can't think of another way to paint another interesting way to paint a dolphin. I've done it all. So now I like to mix it up, but my favorite is still marine life. Vic said, yay for the aquarium. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited. Let's see. We're going to start on the trees in just a moment here. Oh, that just jumped. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out where we were. Moody Roan Studio said, thank you for continuing to do these, Lisa. It makes my world still seem somewhat normal in all the chaos. I'm glad. Jason said, I told you to get a bigger one. I wasn't going to. I really was not going to go that big on the aquarium. But when he came over and he saw, actually wasn't Brandon, it was one of his friends came over. And he's like, you're really going to be happier with the 80. You're going to, and I wasn't going to do the sump. I was going to do an all-in-one. Well, in an 80, an all-in-one would not work. So it'll have the sump. I can do the copepods. The good thing is I will be able to do, I think I want to do a coal tang, because that should be big enough for one of those guys. And I want to do a mandarin goby. So I'll be able to breed copepods in the tank and the sump, which I really wouldn't have been able to do in the all-in-one. Those were two fish that would not have been options for me. So that's, I need a good brush to do this with. That's pretty exciting. It's kind of fun because now I will have more options on different fish I can put in there. So yeah. And he talked me into going with some zoas as well. He thinks I should leave the green star polyps in my other tank and now like focus on zoas and some of those guys. Where are my brushes that I need? These should work. So what I'm doing, I want flat brushes. So these guys, fan brushes, I normally don't use them, but they work really well for pine trees, especially if it's bigger. But I'm looking for just some little flat guys, flat stiff brushes I like better for painting. Ooh, you look like a good one. Little flat brush. So I've got some little flat, these are cheapy little, like they're so generic, they don't even have a generic name. Little cheap flat brushes. They're, I think, supposed to be like a synthetic hog hair. They're cheaper than that. Like, they're super cheap. You can get them in a roll with the canvas brush holder for like, I don't know, under $20. Sometimes I've seen them as little as $10 on sale at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. And they just work well for some of these techniques, especially when you don't clean them well. They get more stiff and they work even better. Let's see. Moody Run, oh, I got that one. Leah said, his expression when you gave it to him was great. Would love a saltwater tank. Yeah, I always said I wouldn't do another saltwater tank until I could afford someone to take care of it for me. Apparently I lied. I'm going to do it and take care of it myself. I mean, I already take care of mine. It just, the maintenance of it, I was like, I don't want to do it on my own. Or, you know, I used to keep saltwater. I had a 65 gallon and it's just, it gets to be, you know, it's a lot of work. Yeah, and here I am doing it again. Let's see. Sarah said, do you think someone could leverage viewers, even unsubscribed ones, when it comes to sponsorship? Say someone averages at least 10K unique viewers per month. Yeah, the viewers are a big deal. The viewers are actually a bigger deal than the subscribers. If you can show that you're consistently getting a certain amount of views, but you've got to show that you're getting that consistent amount. I think that is, yes, I think that's a big deal when it comes to people who would be potentially want to run an ad or sponsorship with you. Hi, Carol. Kimberly said, is it always best to sell work that has been done on stretch canvas, or would you ever sell work that has been done on canvas board? Oh, I sell work on canvas board all the time. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not lately, but like at art shows and stuff, yeah, absolutely. Canvas board is fine. But make sure it's a good canvas board. Like the Fredericks, this doesn't warp, whereas stuff from Michael's did. So just be aware of that. Starving Artist Collective said, color pencil watercolor paper means cold press. Oh, that's what, God, I was not reading that right. Sorry, yes, cold press. I know that's what it means, but also when reading colored pencil, my brain, it misfired. I'm sorry. Whoop, that just jumped. Where were we? Carol Wade said, sorry, meant hot press compared to cold press watercolor paper. Smoothness. None of the canvases I use are anywhere near a cold press watercolor paper. They would be closer to a hot, like this is closest, I would say, to a hot press. Kinda. I mean, colored pencil is not going to work the same on it, but I would say this here, how smooth it is closer to a hot press. Dean said, would you be interested in doing a colored pencil piece using Crayola colored pencils instead of the type you usually use and using a rubbing instead of, nope, not even. So a lot of these challenges, I know people do them. I know they're popular. I know they get views. It doesn't sound fun to me. And because I'm an artist first and a YouTube second, that matters. Like I can't sell something I did in Crayola, and with the paints and all of that, I might do some of the fun challenges. It's fast. But with that, colored pencil's slow. No, that doesn't sound fun to me. I mean, maybe, you never know. I may change my mind someday and for some reason it piques my interest, but not right now. It doesn't sound fun. YouTube Porin, just don't filter me, Star said, you are 262 likes short. Oh, yes, please hit the like button. It helps me out a lot. Thanks. I'm just going to call you Star because YouTube's going to miss that. I love the name, though. That is funny. Renee said, how long do you let your finished painting dry before varnishing? Usually with acrylics overnight. With oil paints, a few days, at least a few days, depending on how thick it was. Now, if I had an area, so with oils, it has to be with, I use Gambar by Gamblin. I get those backwards. It needs to be dry to the touch before I can varnish that. For my paintings, usually within a day or two, that's going to be the case. But if you're painting thicker, I would let it dry longer. But for the acrylic paintings, I usually just let them set overnight before I varnish them, just to make sure everything's dry, like really dry. Heather said, come on, y'all, works. Lachri Fine Art works hard just to teach us, but also entertain us. Hit the like, thumbs up button, share, etc. Yes, thank you. Brenda said, I used to have a saltwater aquarium, but my clowns were evil and would nip at me. I wear gloves, so, and my two littles, after they died, I got rid of them. Aw. Where were we? I'm trying to get caught up on this, and then we're going to start on the trees. Jason said, Lisa, you are a light touch. If you are, I have a beachfront property to sell you on canvas. You are a what? Lisa, you are a light I don't know what that is. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I apologize. There's always a delay here on the question, so I'm like, I feel like I'm several conversations away, and my brain is like, I don't remember that anymore. I'm sorry. Brenda said, I have, and it was probably funny, and I'm just not getting it. Brenda said, I have an airbrush, but every time I try to water down my acrylic paint to use it, it still clogs the airbrush. Do you know if there's a certain proportion of water to acrylic paint? You want it to be about the consistency of milk. I don't know what the proportions are, but if it's thicker than milk, then it's going to clog. So pretty thin. Axel said, do you have any advice for working with acrylic in places of high heat humidity? I live in Argentina, and here it's pretty intense, even in winter. The humidity is actually doing you a favor, but as far as the high heat, if the acrylics are drying too fast, get an airbrush. That is the best thing to keep it wet for as long as you need. I love the results I get with that, and like I said, I can keep it wet for hours. And I used to paint outdoors when I was younger. I would set up my easel and paint outdoors, and I could keep it wet just with that little hobby kit. Keep misting water. You can keep it wet all you want. And that was when I lived in Southern California, so very hot. But there it was hot and dry, so it really would dry fast, and that really worked. Serena said, what mediums do you use for oil paint, if any? I use liquid is my medium of choice. Vladimir said, have you ever used pen and ink for any of your works, or just alone? Years ago. It's been a very, very long time. Years and years ago. Okay. Trees. Let's paint some. Those are not the brushes I pulled out. Where did I put them? I lost them. Oh, hold on. Make sure this is not anything important. Nope. I think I'm good. Okay. I should probably put that on the charger. I lost my brushes. I had some, oh, there they are, right under the, yeah, okay. Let's see. So for the smaller trees, I will be using smaller brushes, and then for the bigger ones, I can use these. Now, I want to show you, before we get started, let me actually, where did I put my That is not what I'm looking for. Let me find a pencil. What I'm doing right now will make sense in just a moment. If I can find my stuff. Actually, this will work. Just so I'm sure I put this back in the same place. Okay. We're going to do some practice trees first. So when you do the trees, you can see we've drawn our little lines however we want the trees to be. It should be back here. That will make things easier. So there are a couple ways you can do these fan brushes. These work best when they're very, very dry. If they start to get wet, they really don't work that well. And this is a very stiff brush. So with this, I intentionally don't clean it well because over time it'll start getting better and better. But what I'm going to do is just add we'll use a little bit of black, a little bit of water, not too much water because it doesn't work well if there is much. So here's our tree trunk. And I'm going to kind of zigzag out just using the edge of the brush because this is small. A smaller one would be better for something this size. But I'm just going to zigzag back and forth. Now, when I say zigzag, I don't literally mean you want this. Be very careful that that's not the look that you're getting. And we can just dab the edge of that brush back and forth. Get some variation in there. Like here, I'm starting to get too much zigzagging. Let's throw some in there. Some little extra guys. And we'll start filling that out. But see how I've got different branches showing through. What you don't want is this. That it's too solid. We want to get the little branching guys sticking out. Now I can make this more solid than what I have it, but I still want to make sure I've got some of those branchy guys. You're not trying to create a perfect triangle, and that's important. Now the other way that we'll do this brush I probably won't end up using again because now that I've rinsed it, it's going to be too soft. We'll see. The other way is to use just a flat stiff brush, same thing, dab it in water, or thin the paint with a little bit of water. So we've got our tree trunk and we're just going to dab back and forth to create that look. This is a little bit easier to control, I think, for most people. And kind of back and forth, making sure you're letting that background sky show through. We don't want it to be solid like this. We want to make sure that we're getting trees. The other thing, and this is important, that you don't want to do, and I think sometimes learning what not to do is as important as learning how to do stuff, but you don't want to do this. I see this all the time with students. They do these straight lines across that. I don't know what that looks like, but it's not a tree. This is not what we want. We want this looser kind of back and forth zigzag. So it is similar to that, but don't make it look like an actual zigzag, but back and forth, not these straight lines. This does not look like a tree. I don't know what it looks like, but it's not a tree. So I'm gonna go ahead and rinse that. And you can practice that on a board. Like this is just the back. This is actually the back of a big piece of paper, like a pad of paper. I reuse everything. It's that starving artist in me will never go away. Let's see. Jason said Lisa, it's referring to the sale of the tank you bought and how I would like to sell you property that doesn't exist. Sale of the tank you bought. I didn't buy it. What? I'm so lost right now. I'm sorry. I feel like such an airhead. I have no idea where we're going with that. I mean, I know we're talking about the fish, but sale of the tank I bought. Huh? I don't know where we're going. I'm still not following. My brain, I swear, when I'm doing these live streams, I get so zoomed in on one thought process, I don't keep up with stuff very well. Things go right over my head. Casey said, right now, the painting looks like something out of Aladdin. Nice. I like Aladdin. Let's see, we've got Warrior Potato on a Unicorn. Maybe the best name ever said, Lisa, these trees are very Bob Ross. Yeah, it's that kind of beginner style, getting you started. They're fun. They're so much fun. Let's see. Vladimir said, I finally switched over to just fluid acrylics. Also, have you ever heard of Altair acrylics? They're acrylics that reactivate with water or a special liquid spray formulation. So yes, and I have some that a student gave me to try and I have not gotten to it. In my head, I'm thinking I'm going to hate them, although in my head, I think I'm going to hate a lot of stuff I end up loving. But they just, I don't know, I don't want them to reactivate. Like if I do acrylics, the way that I layer and the way that I glaze, if it reactivated, that would be a bad thing. So I don't know. I haven't tried them yet. Mary said, I think she's talking about how easy it was for you to be persuaded to buy in a larger tank. Thank you, Mary. Obviously, I am not keeping up. Now it makes total sense. Wow, when you have to explain a joke to me, you know it's a slow night. Wow, I felt really dumb. Yes, I can actually be it's pretty easy for me to be persuaded, unfortunately, with certain things. If a YouTuber is selling it, I'm really bad about that. Like, there's a guy who like promotes different things for your yard and different or if somebody in a group of what was it? It was like a fish meal fertilizer I got because somebody recommended it. It's like I'm instantly out buying it because yes, I can be easily influenced on certain things. Way too much apparently. Too bad I can't as easily keep up with conversations, huh? Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to just sketch in first. I'll use the smaller brush and put in some of the tree trunks. And I don't care if these tree trunks are smooth. They don't need to be straight. None of that matters. This is just going to keep me kind of the trees about where I want. Now, here's another very important thing. I'm making mine come in this kind of fisheye shape, so they'll curve up. But don't make it so it's perfectly even. Make sure you've got some are smaller, some are tall. Variation in there is a big, big deal. We don't want it too perfect. It will look weird. I'm not even going exactly with what I sketched out with that charcoal pencil. Vladimir said, they only activate with spray formulation, not when you paint layers of paint, just FYI, because I would get frustrated if I have, I may need to try those then. That's interesting. Baby Panda said, hi Lisa, for Friday's drawing, if we don't have pan pastels, can we use regular pastels with soft tools? Or what can we use instead? Use whatever you've got. Yeah, if you've got regular pastels, go for it. Now with the pan pastels for Fridays, and if you don't know what we're talking about, Friday we're going to be doing pan pastels and colored pencil on sanded papers, what I will be using. It's going to be a flower. I will post tomorrow the reference photo over on Patreon. You do not need to be a member. I can't talk. Need to be a member. Wow, enunciation. But you don't need to be a member to get the reference photo. And again, that will be posted tomorrow. It's a really pretty flower. I'm actually really excited about that one. If you use the pencils, I don't think it'll be as fast as the pan pastel, so you'll be a little bit behind. But yeah, you definitely could do that. Let's see. Star said, I'd ignore the tank statement. The larger the aquarium, the easier it is to get the environment stable. And exactly. And I know that. And that's what he was saying too. Because if I can keep my 13.5 gallon going, like a 30 gallons, anything's easier than maintaining my nano tank. But yeah, an 80 gallon is going to be so much more stable. And having a sump, So even though more maintenance, it's also more stable, and that does worry me. Like the 13 gallons, so I always wear gloves, so it doesn't matter if my clownfish bite me because they're, I use scented hand lotion or lotions. I'm not getting, there's no way I'm ever going to have that washed off all the way, and the slightest amount of anything getting in the water that small could just crash the tank. So yeah, that's, it wasn't too hard. It took him all 4 minutes to convince me. And I already knew that, but yeah. Where were we? Ellen said, so do you barely rinse your brush and simply wipe it off with a towel so it's not overly clean in the future? Yeah, I just let it be kind of dirty. I rinse it a little, but it's not, and right now it is, I might be able to use it tonight. But yeah, I just take crappy care of the ones that I want to get more and more stiff. Casey said, I was working on that tulip in acrylic you did a few weeks ago and was having trouble getting the values right. I was wondering if I can just paint it black and white and then glaze it. The tulip and acrylic. Oh, yeah, you absolutely could. That would work really well. It'll give you a slightly different look, but a good look. It'll be pretty. I've done that before where I would do everything in black and white and then glaze. Yes. Sarah said, I don't have a fan brush. I have flats, filberts, rounds, and a liner. Which do you recommend? Flats. Absolutely flats. That's what I've got. A tiny little flat right now. It's listed as a #1, but depending on the brand you're using, it may be something else. Vic said, how long do pan pastels last? Planning on the basic red, blue, yellow, black, white set, and I don't know if I should go bigger. How long do they last? I've got my same set. I want to say it's 24 that they sent me because they sent it to me to try, and I want to say it's a set of 24, and I am nowhere near on any of them even being remotely low. It's they last I find that they last a really long time. Now, keep in mind, I also don't use them that often. But they seem to last pretty long. Because I use so many different mediums, it does make it a little bit hard for me to judge how long, like if somebody was only using 1 or 2 mediums, how long that would last for the average user. Maritza, I apologize for butchering your name, said, Lisa, when mixing different paint brands, do you a favorite brand and why? So paint brands, Liquitex Basics are my favorite. They just work well for my techniques for glazing and layering, and they dry fairly matte. So like that white charcoal pencil I used earlier sticks well to it. Tracing and transfer paper, or the transfer paper itself, sticks well to it. So I don't need to go down that low. I really only need to come down maybe kind of like that. We'll just break up that line so I know how far I need to worry about details. But Liquitex Basics are my go-to acrylic paint. Make sure too that you're doing the Lachri Fine Art. If it doesn't highlight my name in orange, I'm probably not going to see your question, so I will unfortunately end up ignoring you unintentionally. So I'm just kind of breaking up. I'm not just using those trees. I'm throwing some little guys in the background. Those little brushes, nice. And you can make some that are a little bit more sparse, and some that are more full. Get some variation in there, always a good thing. Sarah said, it looks like you're making dotting motion with the brush on canvas. So sort of. I'm pushing a little bit harder, and that's a good point, Sarah. I'm pushing hard. Let's do this. I'm not just making dots, I'm pushing it. And when you push it a little bit, you get these little frayed guys. Like it frays out and it gives you a more natural feel. Some of it are dotting. I guess that's not totally true. Some of these are really more dots, but it kind of, the way that you can push it, you can get this frayed look that looks like natural little brushes sticking out. And you'll see that now as I get into bigger ones more. Cat's Art Pick said, how can I remove oil paint from my wood floor? Oh, I don't know without damaging it. I would contact somebody who repairs wood floors and ask them, tell them you got an oil-based paint on it and see what they say. I don't know on that. I don't even want to give advice on what might mess that up. So I'm just going to keep putting that in there. We'll get a little fluffs in the background so we get some short guys. Now I'm going to do two where I decided I was going to paint the bottom more solid. Let's go ahead and do that now. Oh, that brush is too stiff. So I'm going to break up here. I'm not trying to make a super straight line because I don't want to fight that later. But I'll go ahead and paint the bottom edge of this where we do know it will be solid. And then as I move up here, just kind of leave it a little bit more rough so I'm not fighting a straight line. There we go. Fill that in. I may have to put another coat to make it darker later. Vladimir said, I forgot to mention that the spray formulation, they call it an unlocking formulation. Spray can also re-wet old dry paint. That's interesting. Tallulah said, or anyone who knows about these things, would you recommend Photoshop Lightroom over Corel just for editing reference photos, etc.? I've never used Corel, so I can't give you advice there. I know Photoshop and Lightroom's amazing and has a lot of things you can do with it. So maybe somebody else will have some more advice for you there, because I'm not sure what the difference is. Starving Artist Collective said, can't see the dog legs pointing skyward behind you today. Are the boys in the room? They are. They're laying, well, sort of laying like normal dogs. Gibson's kind of balled up in his bed, and Wade's got his butt half on the, that's going to be uncomfortable on his hips when he gets up. His back end is on the tile floor and his front end is on the bed. Kind of reverse for how he usually is. He usually does that backwards. I'm going to switch to a slightly larger brush for some of the bigger trees. And remember, we want variation. You don't want them all looking exactly the same. That's important. So I can fill in the centers of some of these a bit more. Let's see. Heather said, I just found out how far I can push Canson black paper. Not very far, no matter what I've done. White does not pop. Me 10's on the way. Yeah, the Me 10's I really liked. And the white's never going to be as bright as like white paper, but it does show up pretty well. And you don't have to do the fisheye on yours. You know, it's whatever you like. I don't know, something about that. I've kind of been on a kick lately where I thought that looks really neat. Mine's a bit extreme. Have a good night, Mary. Whoops. Just kind of dabbing and letting. This brush is really frayed and it's working really well. So I can easily get these little branch guys sticking out. Not a whole lot of work. It almost sounds like that ASMR crap, which drives me insane. I don't know how some of you guys like that stuff. That quiet, like, it makes my skin crawl in a not happy way. But these like slight little sounds probably sound like that. And I apologize, because if any of you are like me and that ASMR stuff drives you insane, I'm probably creating that right now. Get a few guys zigzagging out so it's not too solid. But see how I'm leaving a lot of the sky showing through in the trees? That's really important. Some variation in there. Now you could get pretty fancy if you wanted to pull some yellowy tones like I've got on the reference photo. I actually toned mine down so it looks like it gives you a bit more depth there. You can leave it like this, or we'll fill some of that in when it dries a bit more. So here's a tip. Right now, as I'm trying to fill this in, I'm getting this scratchy look. You can't probably see it here, but you've got these scratches from the brush showing up. The reason that happens with acrylics, if you use a brush that is more stiff, you're more likely to create these scratchy or streaky lines. Whereas if you use a softer brush, you get a more smooth finish. Itchy nose. Thank you, Carol. Carol, thanks for being you, little icon guy. Thank you so much for the super chat. That's so sweet. Aww. Was it because I hadn't cried long enough or lately enough? I don't think, actually, I'm not tearing up. I'm just getting goosebumps this time. Nope, there we go. A little bit. Okay. I was so close this time to be almost normal. Thank you, Carol. Okay, I'm going to let this set. Let's see. Am I caught up? Yeah, I think I'm caught up on questions right now. I'll let this set for just a moment. And I'm going to actually give mine a little bit of a glow. We've got time, so we can do that, but this needs to dry all the way first. So if you guys have some questions, go ahead and throw those out at me. I'm going to dry this with a hair dryer. So plug your ears. I'm going to let that set a bit, and then I'm going to put a little bit of an orangey glow around my trees. It may look terrible, and I may wipe it off. We'll see. We've got to let that dry first, though. You can see these little scratchy guys, and when I just go over that with a smoother brush, it'll smooth all that out. But that's because that brush I was using was fairly rough. I've got some little bit of the charcoal pencil showing through. So you can use an eraser, but half the time with the white charcoal pencil, I'm just going to rub it out with my hands. Okay. It's still a little warm. Let that cool a bit more. And I don't think I even have orange paint out right now. This or the raw sienna. I'm not sure which will look better. Probably the raw sienna. We'll put them both out. Okay. I think I can just use a smooth brush. Let's experiment a little bit. Need a smaller one to get that out. This guy should work. I'm just going to take a, that brush is really dry. Just a little bit of raw sienna, just to get a little bit of a light glow, maybe a little bit more around those trees. How many of you guys are painting along tonight? A little bit more orange in that. Maybe some yellow too, lighten it up some. Just dabbing a bit, just to kind of, it will make my trees a little bit wider. I'm overlapping some of this onto the sky and some onto the tree. Just kind of toning that down just a bit. Put a little bit more on the tree. Just kind of pushes them back a bit. Now I don't want to mix white in with this because it would be too opaque and not really give me the look that I'm going for here. And we're obviously going to be done with this super fast, or early tonight. So if you guys have questions and want to chat, go ahead and start leaving those in. Even this little glow thing, you don't need to do. It was just that we're done so early. I'm like, may as well add a little extra. Use some orange glow on these as I move my way out. It's very subtle. And I'm going to go ahead and use a soft brush and fill that in, and then that's about it. And sign it when it dries. So I'll switch. I don't need that big. May as well. So some of those scratchy marks I had in here, I'm just going to fill in now. And then if you struggle with getting your signature to look right, I'll show you how an easy way to do that with the white charcoal pencil. We're just going to let that dry first. Sarah said, in your experience, how do companies tend to respond when they see that artists are comparing them to each other, such as when you compared Prismacolor to Faber-Castell? I have no idea. Neither company ever contacted me after that. I'm sure that, well, I know for a fact that Faber-Castell was aware of me and they had seen that video. I know I heard from somebody else that they had liked it, but I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there. Which is so weird to me. When I made that video, the comparison of those two brands, I was just sharing my experience so other artists knew what I found, because I was really, I'd always thought that Prismacolor was the best of the best, and it was, eye-opening to me to find there were other options that worked better for me. But I mean, I've never talked to Prismacolor, so I have no idea. I doubt they are fans of mine. Not that I care. I'm not fans of theirs either, so I guess that works. But I don't think I'm important enough that most of them care, especially in Prismacolor. Prismacolor's not like an art supply company. That's something that I didn't even realize. Was it the company Rubbermaid, or one of those companies owns them? Like, they're a small fraction of a very large company that has nothing to do with art supplies. So, I mean, they make that art supply, but their focus isn't art supplies. Whereas if you go to like Faber-Castell, their focus, art supplies is all they do. That is what they care about. Whereas Prismacolor is like, here's one small product that we offer. We also offer totes and cleaning products and like all kinds of stuff. So I don't know that I'd imagine I'm the tiniest little blip on the company that owns Prismacolor's radar. I don't think they care about me. Who knows? Whereas a smaller company, smaller but makes more supplies, like Faber-Castell, I'm sure that they were pretty big fan. I would imagine they were pretty happy to have artists giving other opinions about other, at least here in the U.S., because I know I grew up in high school, Prismacolor, that's what the teachers always tell you. And my own students would come in and tell me, my teacher said Prismacolor is the best. That's the only one to use. We all thought that because that was the easiest to find. It's the only one that they carried in most of these art supply stores locally. So now I am seeing some of the other stores have other stuff, but they were all we knew about. So I imagine that they're not happy that with YouTube we're able to get the word out to more artists that there are other options. So the internet has been amazing for learning things that we didn't know. I mean, back like when I first started with Prismacolor was like 93, 94 was like when I got my first set when I was in high school. And I mean, there was no internet back then. I had no way of knowing there were other options or anything out there. So for companies who aren't making the best products, I'm sure that they're not huge fans of the internet, whereas companies who are making really high qualities probably love when artists are sharing their experience with those. So I don't know. With Derwent, when I reviewed one of their products, the pencil color stop, you guys know they don't work for my technique at all. I'm not a fan. They contacted me and were like, okay, but we have this product you might like better. They gave me my first set of Inktense, and sure enough, I sure did. But I'd already tried them. I knew I liked them because I used them with the Smart Art box. But they were like, this is bad. This is a bad review. Let's reach out to this artist and see if we can turn that around. And they did. They absolutely did. I love Derwent products, but most of them. But yeah, normally I don't hear from the company itself. I haven't really had that much experience with that other than I know Faber-Castell is aware of that video. I was told by somebody else that they liked it and, but I didn't work with them. Like it wasn't made for them. I was just sharing. I bought the products myself and was sharing my experience. But that's all I can really tell you as far as what I know about like how companies responded. I normally don't hear from the companies. Monkey said, I am a beginner when it comes to acrylics and got any recommendations for paint brand and what color should I buy? Liquitex Basics, my favorite, and they are on the low end as far as cost. So they're just a good fit all around. They're quality paint. Most of them are light fast. I only use the light fast colors and most of them are. The consistency, they just work for how I paint. I'm a huge fan of the Liquitex. So that is what I recommend. As far as colors, it really is up to you on what you want. Obviously, I would go with titanium white and Mars black. Beyond that, just kind of a neutral red, a neutral, like a blue, yellow, green, and just learn to mix from your basic colors. Usually I had students get, I normally did either phthalo or ultramarine blue, either one, honestly, depending on how much you're mixing. If you're going to buy a purple, I would just go with phthalo blue because you can get a color that's closer to ultramarine by adding purple to that. But I usually had my students get red, yellow, like a fairly bright yellow. Which one is this? This one's a good one. Cadmium yellow, medium hue, that works. Don't buy orange. You can mix that with your red and your yellow. Get a red. Trying to think what other colors. Red, deep violet, I use there. Phthalo blue, if you're going to go with dioxazine purple. Phthalo blue, if you're not going to get dioxazine purple, I would say ultramarine blue, so you can mix a brighter purple. For green, probably Hooker's green, or I use phthalo green a lot too. And then red oxide or burnt sienna, and then you can mix that with your black to get whatever brown tone you want. But those would be a good, I think, start. Leah said, no painting tonight, still working, but enjoying the tips. Yay! Jessica said, no, I've only just arrived. Hello. Yeah, we finished the painting. You're late. We're just chatting now for the next one. We've got a half hour. We're really early. Marika said, what would you sell this painting for? This one, probably $25. Like, not much on this one. This is one of those paintings, if I wasn't doing it on a live stream, I'd have it done in 10, 15 minutes. I mean, it is a fast painting. So these type of one, this here with the silhouette, I wouldn't sell for very much. Actually, it's so inexpensive, I won't go. It's not worth it to me to ship it. It's not worth it to me to like sell on eBay or whatever. I used to do stuff like that, but now I don't have time. For the shipping and packaging would take far longer. It'd take me an hour to package something right when I sell artwork. So usually, I don't know, 45 minutes. I'd say 45 minutes is what it usually takes me to package something. The box would cost me more than the painting, but yeah, it's not worth my trouble to sell something for 25. So like, I'll take it to like an art show. Next time I do like Aquashella, I'd bring this and have like a bargain bin with stuff. But as far as like shipping, it's just not worth the cost. So you won't see something like this on my website. It takes too much effort to get it ready to ship for the cost of the painting. But yeah, if I were to do it at like an art, like if I do it at Aquashella, I'd put it like $25. Sarah said, so glad I finally caught up to you, or caught you live. I can't read. Great job. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. Cat's Art Pick said, I found the paper you recommend at Jerry's Artorama. Thanks. Yeah, I get a lot. Jerry's and Blick are the two that I normally will order online from. Sarah said, I'm planning to compare a similar color and 2 brands of acrylics, and I've been posting about it on social media. Was hesitating to tag the companies though in case I upset them. You know, I don't feel they legally, I mean, you're just sharing your opinion, so you can share your opinion on those, but I don't see anything wrong with tagging them. And I think it's important for companies to know when artists are like, wow, this is a weak spot of this product, hopefully they'll improve it. So I don't see anything wrong with tagging them. Carol said, does the stationery in your store have the same picture on every sheet of paper? Huh? Stationery in my, do I have stationery? Like, is it on Fine Art America? I don't know if there is stationery. I have not ordered it. I don't know. It's not on my website. It might be on Fine Art America. I'm not sure what all is in there. I have no idea. I'm sorry. We're caught up. This may just be an early night tonight. Unless you guys have more questions. I'm watching our moderators ban people. Speaking of our moderators, make sure to check out their channel. Nick and Joseph both have art channels here on YouTube. That seems redundant. Definitely check them out. Subscribe. Tell them thank you. They help so much with these streams. Brenda said, I painted along tonight and my 3-year-old son helped with the trees. Thank you so much. I had fun. That's awesome. Please share. I'd love to see it. Leah said, any tips on using masking fluid? Going to order some this week. So I use the one by Winsor & Newton that is pigmented. It has like a yellow tint to it, or I think they just call it tinted. It makes it way easier when you can see it. Whatever paper you use it on, test it on a small area, because I've had paper where like one time it worked fine and I used it again and it ripped it weird. I don't know if the humidity was an issue. I don't know if I left it on too long. My other tip for masking fluid, do not leave it on very long. You want to get that off the paper as quickly as you can. So like, don't put it on and think, oh, I worked on it tonight. I'm not going to get a chance to get to this for another week. It's going to probably tear your paper when it comes off. So you want that on and off. Like if I can have it off within the hour, that's ideal. The longer it sits, the more it kind of bonds to the paper. Heather said, I travel home Friday, so I will try to be in the live. Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I need to get the photo posted for you guys. Let me know too, what other things. So I've been collecting ideas you guys have, whether it's something more advanced you want to see on Patreon or something for one of these live streams. Let me know. Where did I put my, oh, there's my pencil. Let me know what you guys would like to see. It really makes it easier for me to choose stuff because sometimes I have a hard time thinking of things when we do this many of them. Joseph said, what are your thoughts on art and burnout? From Steve Anthony. Thoughts on art and burnout. I think anything you do, whether it be painting, like sports, it could be an instrument. I think you can get burnout on any of those. I find it, for me, by switching mediums and switching subject matter and switching back and forth between like, so I did the zebra with the beehive or the honeycomb and then the bees. Very, very time consuming. And that sort of thing, if I do things that are super, super time consuming, over and over and over again, I definitely start to feel that burnout. So what I do that works well for me is switch it up, mix it up. So I did that. That was super busy, it was a 3-week painting. My next one this week will be in a different medium M, not N, medium on Patreon. And it will be something that's smaller and quicker. Still, I want it to be pretty, but it needs to be something that can be done faster. And I try to rotate between those things. And like even something like this that's just quick and fun and easy, that helps me not to feel too burnt out when I did something that's so elaborate and so detailed. So I like to mix that up a lot. And it's the same way if I do things like when I used to get ready for art shows or Christmas time, I would do a lot of this sort of thing for people if I needed filler paintings, if I didn't have enough of them already done to give away. I would get really burnt out from doing things that were too simple. I have to mix that up. Super simple, super elaborate, and back and forth, and mixing up the medium really helps. If I do the same medium too many times in a row, I can start to feel a bit burnout. So just mixing that up really helps. But I think too, keep in mind that the burnout can be normal in anything, but when you can make it, like, try to find ways that make it more interesting to you. So like walking. I go on walks, well, lately I haven't been. Everything's a little too crazy out there. I don't feel super safe, but I go on walks normally a lot. And if I do the same path, the same walk every time, it's just like, I don't want to go on a walk again. I mean, I know I need to. I know it's good for me. I really don't want to do it. Maybe walk on a different street, take a different path. Mixing things up, I find, for any type of burnout can really help. With violin, when I practice regularly, which I have not. If I keep working on the same song, trying to perfect, like working on Vivaldi or something that is very, very complicated, I will get burnt out. So I will go back and forth. Some days I'm just going to work on scales or arpeggios or something different. Mixing that up, I think, for me anyway, really helps with the burnout or to keep that from happening too much. Casey said, which would be easier to learn and how to use, Inktense or colored pencil? I don't know which would be easier. I'm trying to think. If I had a brand new student, which would I start them on? I would go by what the student. So let's talk about the pros and cons of each. Pros for Inktense. Inktense is way faster. You're going to get that faster, sense of gratification, I guess. Instant gratification on Inktense. You can get it done 1 or 2 nights, depending on what you're working on, way, way faster. That same painting done in colored pencil is going to take you a lot longer. Now, on the flip side, one of the things that some people will have a hard time with Inktense is using the water and using paintbrushes. Some people aren't comfortable with that, and that can be a challenge to get used to. In that case, the pencils might be more comfortable for that student. So it depends on the student, honestly. Colored pencils are such a slow medium that alone turns a lot of people away from them. Like phenomenal artists who are just like, that doesn't sound like fun, that takes too long. Then Inktense is probably going to be better for that person. So, it really depends. I wouldn't say one is necessarily easier. For me, I can get something done way faster in Inktense, but that doesn't necessarily mean easier, it just means faster. Gypsy Heart said, would a photo like this be a good one for a beginner in pigment marker? Absolutely. This would be really good. I want to do a beginner pigment marker one coming up soon. So maybe we'll do like a super beginner, so we can blend stuff. Add that to my, maybe we'll try to do that next week. I think even just like a cute landscape would be good too. I need to come up with that. That's one of the upcoming things we're definitely going to be doing. Carol said, look on Lachri Pixels. Okay, so yeah, that's the Fine Art America site. I don't even know I've been locked out of that site. I've been trying to get a hold of them. I actually haven't tried lately. I can't find a way to get a hold of them. When I tried it, my normal password isn't working. And I still get the payments, so I don't think someone hacked the account. Initially, that was kind of my thought. I've contacted them to reset the password. They're not, the normal reset thing hasn't been coming through. I haven't tried in the last few weeks, so maybe they fixed whatever was going on. I can't get into my account. I have no idea what's on there right now. I wanted to update it with new prints maybe 2 months ago. It was when the COVID and everything was really going on. I can't get into it, so I don't even know what's on there right now. I need to, and I emailed them. I did their contact form. No one's contacting me, so I don't know what's going on. Let's see. Joshua said, I know a dragon would be way too intricate, but how about a close-up of a dragon's eye in acrylic? Possibly. Yeah, more animal eyes would be a good one for one of these. Dragon eye. You really like dragons, huh? Have you read, I don't know if you read books often, the Dragonian series, which is typically one I think mostly girls would like better, but no, it's good for anyone. I think anyone would like it. If you like dragons, read the Dragonian series. So many freaking errors. My gosh, the author needs an editor. But the story is so good and I love it. And I have listened to that more. That's probably my favorite of all series. Like I can't get enough of it. And there's 5 books and she's got coming from one of the other characters, and I don't want to say the name because I didn't see that coming, and if I said who the name was, you would know something was going to happen. Anyway, so from another character's point of view, I love it. I love that world. I love the story. It's so good. And then they did a thing where the main characters went back in time and changed things. So like she keeps continuing. Like there was the initial 5 books, and then she's like, well, what happens if this? Here's another possibility. What happened if this person lived? What happened? So good. So good. But yeah, if you are a fan of dragons, the Dragonian series by Adrienne Woods. Favorite. You know it's good. If I don't have a real high tolerance for a lot of editing mistakes in books. They drive me insane. This story is so good, even though it's one of the worst edited books I've ever read. The story is so good, I don't even care. That's how much I like them. Your hips are really going to hurt when you get up, Wade. That does not look comfy. Let's see. Casey said, could you do a sea anemone on live and colored pencil on black paper? If we just did the anemone, I think we could. If I added the fish, I think it would be too much. Let me add that. Anything we do kind of like that, more simple on black paper, really works well. Yeah, that's a good one. I will look for reference photos for that. That sounds fun. There you got up. Your hips probably hurt now, huh? That did not look comfy on that floor. Star said, OMG, I was just writing him the same answer. Glad you saw the question. Great minds. Missy said, hi Lisa, have you found a community orchestra to join or play your violin? Not here, but I haven't tried. I don't have time. There's no way. I don't even have time to practice on my own. I have so many things that I want to get done, and there is not enough time, unfortunately. So, no, I've not. I don't know if that's something in the future I might ever want to get back into. I don't drive, so that also makes it hard. I have fibromyalgia and I'm dizzy all the time. I'm like, that doesn't seem safe to drive, so I just don't drive anymmer. I work from home, so it's no big deal. My husband probably is annoyed being my chauffeur, but anyway, adding one more thing to practice and to have to go to and get a ride to, like it is not a fit right now. Where did we go? Leah said, anything Inktense. I've just started using mine and I love them. I did the yellow tag in Inktense. That's why I'm ordering masking fluid. Masking fluid would have made that a lot easier. I have the Arches hot press watercolor paper. I don't remember if I've used masking fluid on Arches. It should be fine, but try a sample first. How long is my list? It's pretty long. Today's is kind of short, but I also have 2 other like longer lists that are in my office right now. That's this was one of the requests from last week. Oops, I've got a smudge on there. This was a request from someone wanted pine trees and a sunset, and then someone else wanted flowers, somebody wanted pan pastels and colored pencils, so that's what's Friday. I kind of mixed a couple people's requests into that one. But I'm trying to knock out some of the ones you guys have been requesting. It's a long list. Brenda said, I really like when the painting wraps around the sides of the canvas. Is that something you do often or just a personal preference? You mean like the edges where it continues on the edges? If I do a thick canvas, so like the convexo canvases that are the beveled edges, I'm going to paint on the edges. If it's a thin canvas, I usually just paint it like solid black or solid whatever the main color of the canvas is. Some of them I don't even paint the edges at all. Sometimes I just, especially if I know it's going to go in a frame, I don't usually bother with the edges at all. It depends. Like a thick canvas, I've got black paint all over my neck. But if it's a thick canvas, I'll continue the image around. Otherwise, I don't. Unless you mean the way this is coming up in the fisheye, which isn't something I do too often. Where were we? Carol said, when is cold pressed watercolor paper the best choice? Probably for watercolor paper, like actual watercolor. Inktense would probably be okay for a good choice for that. I have some here that I bought from Arches. I just haven't used it yet. It's the one with the green label, but yeah, I just haven't used it. But for watercolor, it works really well for. For anything where you're doing fine details with like a colored pencil, not a great fit, but for like actual watercolor, it should be good. Dan said, I followed along using alcohol marker and colored pencil. It looks pretty decent. Nice. There we go. Joshua said, I will check it out. I need a good series to read. Who's the author? It's Adrian Woods. So good. Read it, and then we can chat about it, because it's like my favorite book series, and I don't know anyone who... I know people who read it who are in there's a Facebook group that the author has for it. I think it's called like Passport to Pagaya. But the people who post in the group are... I don't know if you guys have ever joined a book, like a fan group for a book series. The women that go in there are weirdly obsessed with book characters. Like they call them their book boyfriends or something. I don't know. It kind of creeps me out, but also fascinates me. So yeah, I don't really typically chat with the people in those that have read them, because they're a little overzealous about their emotional attachment to a fictional character. I don't know. Weirds me out. So as much as I'll read these books going, I've got to be the biggest fan of these books. No one could love these books as much as me. Oh, no, they do. And they have a weird relationship. Like, they think they're real people. It gets creepy. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have been into those and have experienced that. It's interesting. But yeah, like anyone I actually know who I would talk to hasn't read them yet. Roxanne said, can you do a painting in gouache? I don't have gouache. I don't even own any. I think I had some Smart Art Box, but I think I gave them to my friend. So I don't even have those supplies. Skeen said, do you frame your paintings before selling, or sell them as is once finished and varnished? I don't sell them. The only time I sell them with a frame is if I put it in a frame for my wall and then decided to sell it and it's already in the frame, so I'll leave it there. But normally I don't put them in a frame. Or if the canvas was like kind of warped and it needed to be in a frame to hold it in place, then I would put it in a frame. But I don't use any canvases that do that anymore, so that's not a problem. But no, I don't sell it, because you don't know what's going to work, what kind of frame is going to work in the buyer's home. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of money on a frame. Plus, shipping the frame, a frame is more likely to be damaged than the painting itself in shipping. So I don't frame them. Unless, again, if it was already framed, and then I'll just go ahead with it. Steve said, hey, Lisa, great painting tonight. Any updates on the project for Faber-Castell? Hopefully this goes through. I am so done with you too, OMG. I need to contact them. I haven't talked to them about, I don't know what happened with, and it's funny, I had that happen years ago with Fredericks. I had a contact with Fredericks that they were doing, like some sponsored things with me, and that contact got fired, I believe. And they told me that she was no longer with the company. And then no one reached out to me. It's the same people who I talk to now, but no one, like, they just kind of forgot about me for years. Years later, come back and they're like, okay, here's our new person, your contact. And then they started working with me again. So I don't know with Fredericks what all is going on. And everything's just so weird right now with businesses, who's open and who's like, I have no idea. Where were we? That jumped the wrong direction. That was weird. Neek said, confessions of a former narcissist. I'm not the best. I'm not the smartest. Others are just as multi-talented. Yes. Agreed. Brent Does Art said, this month's Smart Art Box has water-soluble markers. Maybe do a live with those. I have not opened this month's yet. So I have a bunch of them I haven't even opened yet. I need to go through. That sounds interesting. Actually, I need to go through, because they have improved the Smart Art Boxes. They were already good. They're phenomenal. Like, I can't get over how good these boxes are now. That would be good for me to start doing some lives with those. I kind of wanted to do like maybe a wine night with a friend. My friend next door likes to do those. Maybe like have both of us work on our own box, hang out and chat with you guys and with each other. And like, I don't know, that sounds like fun. I may do something like that in the future. I've got to figure out how to set it up with the cameras though. Like, it would be kind of it would take more cameras than I have, I think. Let's see. Rhonda said, is this painting finished? It is. What do you do to wrap your paintings into ship? So it depends on the painting, but like in this case, I would probably use they have boxes like USPS. I would ship this with USPS that are fairly flat, and I would wrap it. I would first varnish it, make sure it dries all the way, and I usually want to leave it a week or two before I ship once I varnished it, because sometimes stuff will stick to it. I haven't had a problem with glassine, but either way, I would wrap it in glassine because nothing that doesn't stick to stuff. It's acid free, pH neutral, archival, all that stuff. Wrap it in glassine. That's the same stuff I use under my hand when I work in colored pencils. And then in this case with this, put bubble wrap around it, and then, or no, I'm sorry, then I would put cardboard on either side of the glassine. I don't want the cardboard touching the artwork if I can avoid it, because that's not acid free, which is fine when shipping. Probably nothing will happen, but you never know. Someone may leave it in the box too long. So, glassine, cardboard, then bubble wrap and any packing material I need inside that box. And actually I would do the same for most stretch canvases as well. But with stretch canvases, if it gets bigger, I sometimes have to make my own box if I don't have one a proper size. I try to keep as much as possible. Like when I get my Chewy order or an Amazon order, sometimes you'll get boxes that are just going to be perfect for holding a canvas, so I'll hang on to those. But if it's too big, I usually will have to cut down and make my own box, razor blade and a lot of tape. And I try to do multiple layers of the cardboard to really protect it. Tallulah said, some animal eyes in colored pencil would be good. Maybe the smaller studies of a section of a face, including some fur feathers. I followed so many tutorials, I still struggle. That is, you know, and if I do it on colored paper too, just any colored paper would look, I could make that work. So I like that idea a lot. We'll get some eyes coming up. DJ said, great stream tonight. Thanks to Nick and Joseph and all the people. Hit the like button. Yes, please. That helps a lot. Whoops, where were we? Carol said, newbie question, what are the smart art boxes? So smart art boxes, let me see. Do I have one in here? That one's been opened. Let me grab it anyway. Oops, knocked the brushes over. That's hitting the floor. I think this is empty. Do I have any in here? Weird. I gave a bunch of them to my friends. So, oh, these are actually my Warhammer characters. This isn't even it. Well, I guess I can show you the box. They come, and it's a box like this, and it's full of everything you need to complete a full-size project. Are my Warhammer characters? Want to see my Warhammer characters? I unpacked these recently. I'll show you guys in just a second. But it has everything you need, and it comes with instructions, like a step-by-step. It gives you a history of whatever project you're working on or that style. It goes through what the supplies are, how best to use those supplies. It goes, if you look up Lachri and Smart Art Box, I have several of those videos so you can kind of see what they are, but they've gotten even better. The supplies have gotten better. They're putting more in the box. Their instruction brochure is way better. Like everything has improved so much there. I'm really impressed with them. But it's everything you need to complete a full project start to finish. They walk you through. So if it's like supplies you've never used before and you don't know how to use them, you're not going to feel lost. It's going to have that in there, and it's a subscription box. So every month I think they're like $50 if you're on the subscription, but you can get a coupon code. If you go to one of my old videos, I think those coupon codes still work. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that, so it doesn't make a difference to me. But it has a coupon that gives you like $5 off your subscription for life. That's how it used to be. I'm guessing it's still the same. But so it ends up being like $45, and you get this box full. Like it has so many really cool supplies, and it's something different every single month. So like I said, subscription. So they just send you everything you need. Really cool. These are my Warhammer characters. There's my little ghost girl that I painted. It probably doesn't look very good on here, but they're so detailed, I don't think with the lighting you can really see. I've got to do a video with these where I'll use a macro lens so you can really see. I really liked how these came out. And then I have my little ghost horse. He looks so, I promise he looks better in person than whatever he's looking like on here. Over the black. So yeah, these are little characters that you paint. I guess it's a game. I don't play at the game. I just thought the characters were really neat looking and fun to paint. But I have a whole set in here of the little ghost girls and the horse riders that I still need to paint. I just haven't gone to it. One more thing on my long list. Steve said, that's so strange. Do you think you'll do another 360 stream? Those were pretty cool. I can't do a 360 stream. I can do a video. I have not used those, and I don't know where my program. So I got new computers since I had those 360 cameras. Maybe I just need a new 360 camera. But it really stressed. Don't lose this code, and if you have to use the program again. So when I got the new computers, I thought I could easily load that in, and I haven't been able to get it to work. So I may just get different cameras. The ones that I have, I didn't shoot. The first one that I bought was really cool. The second one, it was also from Samsung, and it came free with my phone. It was like their upgraded version of the first one. It overheats. You've got to get good, 9 minutes or so, less than 15 minutes, and it overheats, and then you have to let it cool down. So I couldn't finish a whole video. It was a real pain. So I don't know if the 360 cameras have improved. I want to do one of the studio. I just haven't. I've got to get the software working. Let's see. Tasha said, it might be interesting to see a painting of what you think of some of your favorite book characters might look like. Maybe other readers could paint their version and you could compare. You know, I actually contacted one of my other favorite series is the Chronicles of Elantra, although they've really slowed down. But those, I really, really love those. Like the character development, they're slow. They are a very slow series anyway. But the last couple of books were like, an entire book that was like 20 hours that could have been like practically cut down to, I don't know, an hour. It was just a lot of back and forth political talking about with characters within their world. Not our politics. It's a completely different world, like magic and stuff. But it was very, very slow. And anyway, there were some of the characters that I loved. There's a scene where the girl has a dragon who's like cloaked around her that I really wanted to paint. I contacted the author. She was totally cool with me doing fan art of it. I just never got around to doing it. Let's see. Brent said, if you have children interested in art, then smart art boxes are amazing to do together. And no, I don't work for them. Yeah, that would be a really good, yeah, definitely. Jean, I'm Jeannie. I'm sorry, I mispronounced everyone's name. My friend is painting a Magic Kingdom paint by number acrylic on loose canvas. It's wavy. She wants it to be flat. Any suggestions? She's willing to have it professionally framed. If she's currently framed, I don't know exactly what that is, but if it's like a canvas that's coming out of shape, I would just tape it to a board with masking tape is how if ever I'm using like a loose canvas to paint on, I always just tape it down with masking tape to a board so it stays in shape. If she's already been painting, I'm not sure how much that will help. The other thing that you can often do, again, I don't know on that specific product, but you can mist the back of a canvas with water and then take a hairdryer to it. If it's taped down, it'll dry back into shape, but that may be an option. What miniatures do you paint, Alyssa? These were my first ones. Joshua said, ooh, miniature painting. I like that idea for a paint along. You know, I need to edit the video. And Gibson's legs are in the air. He is upside down now. Okay, we are 10:01. It looks like I'm caught up on everything. My back is killing me if you can't tell. So we are done for the night. Thank you for joining. My brain shut down. I'm really tired. But thank you so much for joining. If you do paint this, please tag me in it. I would love to see what you've created. Don't forget, Friday, 1 p.m. Central Time, link. I don't even know where the link is. It's on my, if you subscribe to my email newsletter, it's on there. But I will have if you go to patreon.com/Lachri, tomorrow I'll have the reference photo and the link to it there. Again, here, Friday, 1 p.m., we'll be doing colored pencils over a pan pastel background. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you to the moderators, Joseph and Nick. Make sure to check out their channel, linked in the description. Tell them a huge thank you because they do so much. Like, seriously, you have no idea how much work they do. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I'll see you guys in a couple of days.